Hi, it's Jack with a special episode of CFO Thought Leader. Yesterday, I attended SuiteConnect, a conference organized and hosted by Oracle NetSuite, one of our sponsors, as many of you likely know. The customer gathering was in Lower Manhattan, so I got to join the ranks of Metro North commuters here in New York once again and commute as I did daily for more than a dozen years. That is until I opened our suburban podcast studio here. Time goes by, and so it does for NetSuite, which turned 25 last year, which prompted me to go ahead and ask if they would permit me to record a short interview with Oracle NetSuite's co-founder, Evan Goldberg, who was also keynoting the event, and the NetSuite team obliged me. They penciled me in with Evan at 1:30 p.m. yesterday in the afternoon, allowing me to drop this episode into your feed today. So the following is my talk with Oracle NetSuite co-founder and executive vice president, Evan Goldberg. I think you'll find it interesting. Here we go. Evan, thank you so much for the time.
Thanks for having me.
Given this opportunity, and this being NetSuite's 25th anniversary year, we're hoping to have you take a look back for us. And as a co-founder of NetSuite, the notion that you were there for all those early milestones, we can't resist asking you to reflect on one in particular that I'm interested in, and we can flush it out. Maybe you have another one you'd like to point out to us. But in so many of the companies that we speak to, the mid-sized firms, when we speak to the CFOs and their founders, they always like to reflect about product market fit. That moment in time where you knew the company's offerings were ready to satisfy the customer's needs. Look back and fill us in a little bit about what you recall.
Well, I mean, the first thing was that, I kind of joke that NetSuite was a company built by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. So, one of our initial targets was ourselves. I started NetSuite because I'd been in a company that didn't have good systems, a small, fast-growing company that I joke that we had 15 employees and maybe 14 systems. I mean, it was just like, that's not how a small company should be running, having to deal with all that technology, disintegrated data, we had like 5 different customer lists. So building my next company, I'm like, well, if this stuff really works that I'm building, it better work for us. So the first time I saw NetSuite's information, and our books, our sales information, our customer information in a browser at home, that was sort of maybe the aha moment, I guess, where I'm like, yeah, I think this is going to work. And I think that we do have product market fit, at least if the market is entrepreneurs like myself. And it turns out there's quite a few of them.
Is it a specific memory that you can recall for us? Meaning, was there a day where...
Yeah, it was the first day. It was the day that we got our system up and running. We allowed people at that point to upload their QuickBooks files. We were the first basically QuickBooks file that was uploaded with this new technology, and then there it was right there. It was like it was born. It was alive.
Every entrepreneur's story is unique, but NetSuite is different from most. Share with us what sets this story apart.
Well, I mean, there's certainly some unique attributes. My co-founder was Larry Ellison, so that's a unique attribute. And he'd been through this kind of journey once before, so that was actually quite helpful. But in all seriousness, he was a great mentor, and again, somebody that actually really liked the concept and wanted to become a user. As soon as we had like our dashboard up and running, he was like, "Oh, now I need to log in at NetSuite so I can see A, how you're spending my money, and B, see whether your dashboard is any good. So that was sort of that collaboration was certainly something that was unique.
So you have this singular mentor, sort of a historical figure in technology circles. But you as a leader, who were you back then? And what I'm getting at, or why I'm asking the question this way, is that we know you have worn pretty much every hat. But like many entrepreneur founders, your leadership evolved with the company. And so if you were to look back 25 years, who were you really at that point in time?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I was at Oracle, I was a software executive leading a product group. And so my first company, I got so much experience in things I didn't even have a taste of. Certainly finance was one of them. When I started my career at Oracle, I didn't really have to worry about Oracle's profitability, right? Someone else was taking care of that. Well, when you have your own company, you better worry about that. And so I was sort of thrust into the role of having to be, like many entrepreneurs, sort of a jack of all trades. And you have your particular strength that you come to the game with. What you hope to do, obviously, is, as you can, build a team that has strengths in these other areas. And yet you do need to understand them. First of all, just to know whether this person that you got to have some means of evaluating them, some basis to evaluate them. So, you're drinking from the fire hose in those early days. And, I found out what I liked and what I didn't like. And sometimes that changes over the course of your career. I used to, really the thing that I got most charged up about was writing code. And I think the way, and that you have a lot of, power in some sense, and your ability to just mold something, and that crafting, it's really akin to what many people love to do, is to craft things with their own hands. As time goes on, A, that may not be the best use of your time as an executive, and B, you start to maybe develop an appreciation for other people doing that, but you being able to help design and look at the big picture of how are we going to build this product, what's it going to look like, what's going to be the benefits to the user, and so that was a natural progression now. But I'm really, really excited about the nuts and bolts of what we do. Whenever there's a new version, I'm getting in there and trying it and trying the new features and putting on my entrepreneur hat and seeing, is this something that I would like if I was running a fast-growing company.
Was there something that became a pivot point for you in terms of your leadership broadening, where, I don't know, whether you spent more time with customers and you saw their excitement with the product and you realized you could learn from them and be more strategic overall if you were going to realize all?
Absolutely. And, we've had the good fortune that, we grew fast with a very wide variety of customers. I mean, initially, we were sort of the only game in town if you were going to do, a cloud-based financial system. And a lot of companies were attracted to us because they were geographically dispersed, for example, but not any really particular industry. So what that meant is I got exposure to lots of businesses that were in completely different industries than I'd ever, had experience in. And that was super exciting to me, and it continues to this day. I mean, we started SuiteWorld well over a decade ago, which is our largest user conference, and that the opportunity there to see the breadth and variety of companies on NetSuite and learn from them what helps them succeed and what in NetSuite makes them tick, sort of, is really exciting. I love that part. And that's something, when I initially started the company, I had no appreciation of how much I was going to learn about business just by being so deeply involved and enmeshed in these different types of companies.
Well, thank you for looking back. Now let's fast forward 25 years to 2024. And here we are at SuiteConnect, where it seems every discussion involves AI and every speaker finds himself being put on the spot to look into the future. For those entrepreneurs and those companies that have only recently achieved product market fit, how will AI impact the best practices for growing and scaling their companies? What do you see?
Yeah. And I mean, I think it differs greatly on what kind of business you are. I mean, if you're building an internet service, you better have AI built into that internet service, and because that's what you're customers are going to expect. They're going to expect great recommendations on how to use the service. They ultimately, I think they're going to expect if they need technical support, they're going to expect that, any time of the day or night they can get at least halfway decent technical support, even if they can't get in touch with a person. I mean, I think the quality of technical support can really, really go up with generative AI. So, in that industry, there's a lot that you're going to have to think deeply about. If you make a hard good of some kind, maybe that's not as central, but there's still going to be lots of possibilities like you talked about. In that case, you don't necessarily want to become an expert in AI. Maybe if you're starting a software company, you do need to be an expert or have experts in AI, but other companies don't, and that's where NetSuite comes in. I mean, that's our job, is to bring AI kind of on a silver platter to these companies and make it obvious how you can use it to help grow your business, help be as efficient as possible, and it's lots of exciting possibilities. So I think people are wondering, what am I going to do with AI? Well, if you're a NetSuite customer, I at least start by looking at whether you can use these capabilities that we've been releasing and we're going to keep releasing.
Earlier here at SuiteConnect, we had the opportunity to participate in a Q&A session with Jamie Siminoff, the founder of Ring. And I found something he said rather revealing, and I guess it was more of a characterization. But separately, part of what we spend our days discussing with finance leaders is how the role of the finance professional is changing and how it's become so much broader and how they operate across the organization. But what I asked Jamie today was, at the time Ring adopted NetSuite, I was wondering who were the champions or who were the individuals, responsible for getting to know the software and understanding how to bring it into the business, and what were their roles. And he said something interesting. He said back then, the champions, and I think champions is my word, not his, but he believed the people who were closest to the software, who understood its capabilities, they were sort of the back office folks. They were sort of people who were underground. And he said that's what's changing here, is they're coming to the surface now. The NetSuite champions within the organization are now at the surface. And by that, I think he meant they're the collaborators, similar to what we described, how finance is trying to play that collaborative role. What do you think of that?
No, I think that's so true. And you're not really taking advantage of NetSuite if you're not looking at all the data you have and using it in every possible way. And that means, correlating the data across finance and operations and sales and HR, and who's better and able to do that than the person that's familiar with NetSuite and has, that sort of leverage to say that as we change our company, I can produce great metrics for you, and I can also, relatively quickly execute controls so that you make sure, and however you want to change, that everybody is sort of marching to the same drummer and moving that direction. So I think that's right. I mean, if these financial systems were looked at as like they live in a silo and they produce some reports for us and they help us file our taxes, and I think that companies are looking at them now as more of a strategic asset. And if it's a strategic asset, then that means that the people that know it best are, going to be out in the open more.
Yeah. Meanwhile, some of what we've observed in mid-sized companies, they are experimenting with AI. Their team members are experimenting with AI. I don't know what the latest numbers are, but let's say there are 100,000 companies, between 20 million and 50 million in revenue today. And let's say between 50 to 100 million, there's another 40,000 companies. Now, I think there's a convincing argument to be made that when it comes to the application of AI in business, these mid-sized firms, simply due to their numbers, are going to play a plus-size role in innovation as it relates to AI. And therefore, it would seem like NetSuite, just given its lines of sight into these organizations, it's kind of a wonderful perch to have and understand. How am I doing?
No, I completely agree with you. I mean, these companies are kind of in the sweet spot. they have the scale and the complexity that the AI has a lot of promise in helping reduce some of that complexity and help them deal with the scale, and yet they're still nimble enough that they can experiment and adopt technology quickly. So that to me is exactly what you're saying. It's the sweet spot, and we are certainly listening to what they're looking for, but also trying to put in front of them what we're learning about what AI can do, and seeing how they adopt it. The capabilities that we've been announcing here at SuiteWorld, including Text Enhance, which allow you to much more easily generate text across the application, but in a context-sensitive way. A finance person putting an explanation of a journal entry does not necessarily want to do it in the same way or include the same kind of information as a salesperson that's writing an introductory letter about a sales order. And so by kind of configuring it, pre-configuring it so out of the box it understands the context of what you're trying to do, it's going to be the most effective. And so we've been putting that in front of our customers. They've been giving us great feedback. They've been helping us improve that capability. We have a new version that we've announced today that's much more extensive. And that's how I think we're going to approach AI, is as a conversation and a collaboration with our customers. We're bringing them the technology, and they show us how it can, best be utilized. We put something out there. Is that what you like? What aspects do you want more control over? What aspects do you want it to be in the background and not see anything about it? Those are some of the dilemmas that I think we're going to be trying to wrestle with, and our customers are going to be great partners for that.
So I think we can wrap things up where we sort of began. Last fall, from what I recall, NetSuite put something out, some benchmarking capability enhanced with AI. And the products being Customer 360 and Benchmarking 360. What was the opportunity here? And what was the product market fit?
Well, I think the Customer 360 for every company is really their dream, that they can go to one place and kind of get the full picture of their customer, so that they're dealing with their customer with full information. That's the way you're going to have the best relationship. Now that's enhanced with AI, with things like intelligent product recommendations or sentiment detection. And similarly, Benchmark 360 is more about you, rather than your customer. How do I stack up? And so, with the rich set of data that NetSuite has, ultimately, I think that's going to be able to be more intelligent and say, here's an area where we really think you're falling behind, and here's some approaches that might help you remediate that.
Evan Goldberg, thanks for making time for us here at SuiteConnect.
Thanks so much for having me.
Hello, Thought Leader listeners. We hope 2024 is treating you well. If you haven't already, we hope you'll pay a visit to CFOThoughtLeader.com and go ahead and subscribe to our Mentoring Round newsletter, where we highlight the career lessons and moments of strategic insight shared by our recent CFO guests. Also, LinkedIn users, please go ahead and follow our CFO Thought Leader company page, and you'll be certain not to miss a single Thought Leader video debut. CFO Thought Leader, the #1 thought leadership platform exclusively for and by CFOs. As always, thank you for listening.